as always, nice to see you back. Today's episode is not a religious one, even though Jesus Christ was an idol that is very popular in Christianity. When you understand this concept, which I am going to explain to you, there are two parts to that, and then there is the third one on the end when I am explaining all that. So please watch the whole video to the end, because the explanation, the most important part, is going to be on the end. We tend to believe that our safety comes from gadgets. We have cameras, we have all kinds of different locks and stuff that seemingly is helping us to be safe. That is not correct. Safety comes from the person, nothing else. So how come the Jesus Christ comes to this whole to that equation? First of all, this is person. Actually, that's an idol, a mythical figure, where two names, that Jesus is one and Christ is another. There are two different separate things, and I will explain that to you. And then when we understand why and how they came together, on the end you will have explanation what they are for. Therefore, it doesn't matter if you are Catholic or you are Jews or you are Muslim or Hindu, you will have a better understanding where your idols in your religion are coming from and what is their purpose. So, as I mentioned that many times in my videos, I'm not here to take away the religion away from you, but I want to give you better understanding where this whole thing is starting, what is its purpose. Okay, so to explain the name, I'm going to tell you my personal story from the time that I was about 14. It's kind of strange, I never shared that with anyone, but well, it's always first time for everything. When I was about 14, I was in the class, after class study of, catechism. It's not because I wanted to be there, but because there were girls in the class. I was teenage boy, so you understand that. It was all about having the contact with opposite sex. So when the catechism classes, the lessons, they were in private house where the priest was coming once a week for about 1 hour, and usually it was around like a Bible study. And one day he didn't show up. So as always, we were fooling around, pranking each other and doing all kinds of stupid things that today they wouldn't be allowed. But anyway, that was a different time there, and we are okay, I guess. So I, at some point, went to the classroom because I was exhausted and I wanted to catch a breath. So as soon as I went into the class, things changed. Like I noticed that the daylight that was inside, because the sunlight was coming in, changed. It was a little bit from normal to a bit orangey, and it was very strange. But I didn't care, I wanted to catch a breath, so I sat down, and as soon as I did that, a priest came in. It was someone new, I never saw him before. However, when I saw him, he looked familiar to me. I have no idea from where, but it looked to me like I met him before, saw him before, like I talked to him before. To this day, I don't know who that is, but one day I am hoping to have explanation for that, because really that face, it's familiar to me. And as soon as he walked in, he asked me, "Do you know the name Jesus?" Of course I do. They are pounding in the classroom, all the stuff from the Bible. So I just mumbled something, and he smiled at me and said, "No." And he went to the chalkboard and he wrote Zeus. I was like, huh? That's a Greek god, right? It has nothing to do with Catholics. Then next to that he wrote Junior, but instead of Junior he just wrote the letter J. Then he played with the letters, and voila, Jesus came out. I was speechless. Once he did that, I didn't know what to say. Then he went on to explaining to me that back then, about 2,000 years ago, there was a New Age movement because there were too many cults and religion beliefs that were in conflict with each other. There was a lot of tension and stress and fighting over who is right, who is wrong. Much like today, we have so many of the cults and religions that the situation, by the way, from there and now is the same. So secret society decided that they will invent a mythical figure which is constantly being presented in the texts as a messiah. By the way, messiah does not mean a person. Messiah in any language, in any religion, is not even a messenger. It's a message of a new beginning. It's a new concept, new idea, new ideology. We are going through a period of ups and downs as a civilization, and our ancestors, they left that information in writing because they were already aware of that every 2,000 or 3,000 years the civilization is collapsing, and the reason for that is because they lose interest in common goal, or the ideals are no longer working for them, and they simply rebel against that, and they want something new, something fresh. Therefore, the Messiah is born every 2,000 years or whatever. So the next second coming is supposed to happen right now, which, by the way, is already happening. So you understand that. In any religion, it doesn't matter who you are, it's the same story. This Messiah is not a person, it's not even a messenger, it's a news, a new beginning, a message of a new beginning, a representation of new ideology or new idol. Since they needed desperately someone to be the personification of that common goal for everyone, they invented Jesus. Well, now I understand that. Before then, when he was in the classroom, I had no idea that how it is. And then he turned to me and he said, well, do you know who Peter is? Again, I mumbled something from the Bible and I said, he was one of the apostles. Again, he smiled and said, nope. He's a guy that he wrote all the principles that are, all the rituals, all the ceremonies that are practiced in church, and also he was the master engineer of all the sacred churches, which was misunderstanding. He actually made them into sacral places over sacred. There is a misunderstanding in the translation. By today's standard, Peter is like Aleister Crowley. They basically did the same thing. They were trying to find a new ideology for the people. So they, once the masses are losing interest in the old ideology, they are bored with that. Something new needs to be presented, so everybody has the common goal. Like right now, the common goal for this period of time, for the short period of time, is to be working together as a collective. However, this doesn't seem to happen because there are too many obstacles. But anyway, so then he asked me, do you know what the sentence, what is the meaning of that phrase, you are the cornerstone of my church? So basically, that's what he was asking. If I understand that Peter was the one who did that. Peter did in one of those celebrations, I don't know if that was during his times or one of the important celebrations, there was a sacrifice of a lamb, and the priests, they were collecting the blood, and it was in the chalice to drink. That was not well received. Therefore, they switched. They replaced the sacrifice of a lamb into breaking a bread, and the blood was replaced by wine. I need to circle back a little bit to Jesus. He was a mythical figure, and that was known to the people in the secret society. Judaism was part of the Christian movement, and they were okay at the beginning with that, but once they figured out that they were told that this is a mythical figure, that the Messiah is nothing more than just ideology, they spilled the beans, and the Roman Empire find out from them. Therefore, as a revenge, I would say, the 13th apostle was invented, the Judas. It's not like I am having some issue with the Jewish people. It's just I am presenting to you what the priest was saying to me, because he was explaining that to me as well. And when he stopped talking about Peter and the church and was not, I was like, my head was trying to explode, and calmly, because I was trying to storm out from there, I asked him, why are you telling me this? What is the purpose of that? And he just smiled and said to me this, well, when the time comes, you will understand. Well, so I was hanging on to that for 30 years to figure out what this is all about. So I'm going to give you a little bit more details what I figured out about what he was saying to me. So after he finished, I said, okay, can I call the others to come to the classroom? And he said, absolutely, let's call them. So I went outside. I was happy that I get out from there, and I am telling the kids, hey, come in because the priest is in. They look at me and say, there was no priest coming in. There is no priest in there. I said, yes, there is. I just talked to him. So everybody came in, and there was no priest. Can you imagine how I felt at that time? Earthquake would be good, a volcano would be good, asteroid would be good. I thought that really I am going to have a nervous breakdown. I just left, went home because I couldn't. I even was rethinking to return back to school, because that was really something that I was really having problem to cope with. And teenagers at that time, they are very cruel, and sometimes they make jokes that can really hurt you. But anyway, so let's go explain the part of the Jesus. There is more to that. In the writing, we know that he was born out of Virgin Mary. However, that is not correct. If you read the text correctly, it is he was born in the spirit of a man. That part is missing. He was the Messiah. He was a virgin idea that was born in the spirit of a man, not out of Virgin Mary. However, those people, when they designed this whole thing, they placed this Messiah, the message, the new ideology, inside of the family, copying the model of the Zeus god, which basically had many members, and each member was dealing with different aspects. But in this case, it was just a family with one child, Joseph, Mary, and him, although he wasn't born out of Joseph, he wasn't the father, it was the spirit. So you need to understand it was in the spirit of a man, which is the line that you can find in those religious writings. The other part to his name was Christ. The Christian movement is something that was way before even seemingly he was born. This is something about Christianing or baptism. By the way, before the ideology could take off, it was crucified. In other words, people did not accept it. Therefore, those people who were writing those books, they invented that story of how he was beaten, how he was tortured, and finally he was crucified. All those parts were supposed to represent how people were reacting to that new concept that someone introduced to them, how much they rejected this whole thing. Therefore, he was resurrected on the third day, and this third day, this is a conflict in writing, because 300 years after this initial introduction to that idea, it was resurrected again, and now is being resurrected again, but this time has a different name. What is being represented now, I am going to cover that some other time. Let's go back to the questioning. You do know that water has a very unique property. There was a scientist by the name Masaru Emoto. You can see that here. He was doing tests and research on the reaction of water molecule on human emotions, how we can imprint that, and how those molecules change the structure based on human emotions, which indicates basically that water can absorb and hold and store that electromagnetic pulse, because our emotions, they are nothing more than emotions, the magnetic pulses. The concept of baptizing and cleansing the newborn baby is something that was practiced for thousands of years before any religion was born. It is pure science. It was simply what I just said from Dr. Emoto, that people knew back then that water can absorb those electromagnetic static and remove from the body, much like shower. It's cold shower, not warm, because warm shower has sometimes heavy ions in it, but the cold water, which is negative charge, neutralize many of the heavy ions, heavy elements, all that stuff, the static, and washes away. You know that after shower you feel much better. Simply this is the cleansing process. But in the case of baptism, christening a baby, it's a little bit different story, because you form a circle where the people that are present there, they have a specific intention. The same thing, someone who is performing that ceremony is well trained and understand how to use different mantras or prayers, because prayers, they are mantras, to change people the state of their mind, the emotional side of the psyche of the human. And when you have everybody in sync in that ceremony, and you pour that water over the baby, it does really remove the static that is generated during pregnancy, because when a woman is pregnant, then the child is exposed to the environment from the outside, the father, the families, and all the situations where they not necessarily are pleasant for the kid, and that cumulates. And also we have habits that are serving us, not the child. Therefore, this ceremony was designed to remove those attachments, to give the child a fresh start, which was basically what it's being claimed in the Bible, to remove the sins of the parents. You understand that? That water simply cut all the attachments that were unhealthy for the newborn, and the newborn could then start fresh. Pure science, but not many people understand that. So someone, when they were designing this whole religious idol, they combined those two elements that were practiced for thousands of years already, and the new idea, the new god Junior Zeus, which is Jesus, together as a Messiah, the new coming Messiah that not only is going to take the sins away through the baptism or christening, but also is going to be the savior of the world. He's going to give the world a new ideology where people are going to love it and follow that. And I already mentioned that didn't happen, so he was crucified. The idea was simply butchered because no one wanted to follow that. However, the people behind the scene, they did a lot of work. They produced a lot of letters. The correspondence, you know, that marked Lucas and Matthew, Mark, and so on. These are all fake letters, but they were containing a very important information that was done to educate the people, to trigger common interest in that, to show them that there is a better way instead of fighting over religious beliefs, that which in the Middle East there were so many different ideologies going on, and there was the Roman Empire, and there were the Egyptians, and the North had different, and so it was designed to bring people together under one roof, having one common goal, and stop fighting and stop killing each other. But that didn't work out. Right now we have the same situation. I don't know how this is going to end, but right now we know that the magnetic polar reversal requires that we put our differences on the side and work together as a collective. We have better chances, more people can survive, more people will gonna be moved into the new millennium. Now, what's the point of inventing those idols? Why do we do that? There are a few psychological elements moving in this. One, when we have ceremonies and rituals, we change the mental state of a person. Now, it is even better when we have a specific idol that represents a specific trait or specific goal, or represents something, that ideology that we like and want it. So when you focus lots of thoughts into that, that may work. How? I'm not going to go into details how this whole thing works, but I'm gonna give you example from the Toronto Association of Paranormal Practitioners and psychic, all the psychics. In 1970 they invented the ghost, the feel the ghost. What they did, they simply invented, they wrote a script for some ghost, and they wanted to see if the ghost is going to show up. It was fake, it was from the scratch. They sat around the table and they say, okay, the Phil died this way, he had this many kids, he had wife, and where they live, and so on, at what age he died, and so on. And of course Phil show up at one of the seances because they were performing, and they still do. You can check that. I want you to actually read the article because there is a good stuff in it, and you can research the stuff yourself, so you will understand the principles around idols. It doesn't matter if you are Muslim or any other religion. So to make sure that this works for them, that they are correct, on the right track, that every demon and what's not is connected to our psychological, emotional side, they brought another group of people and they performed the experiment again, but not telling the other group about the Phil, the ghost. Of course, Phil show up. So they compare the notes, and then they, from this, there is not much interest in the mainstream media or mainstream science to go deeper into that. However, there are people that they start digging, and I know this is done behind the scene, and sometimes this is done in conditions, in places where public has no access. There are fundings that sometimes are not so ethical, but they explore further. So, two things. When you have an idol and you believe the same way like Napoleon Hill was inventing the 10 ghosts that were working on him, where each one has different assignment. It was one of love and relationship, one was from the wealth, one was from the health, one was, everyone has different assignment. It's the same concept. So if you are a believer that there is Mohammed or Buddha or Jesus or someone else has the ability to do something for you, and you invest enough thoughts into that, it will, because that's how universe works. Those are the principles that they cannot be ever bent. However, there is a danger, because once you start assigning negative signs to that being, they will also show up. You remember the story of young girls, they do that stupid Bloody Mary or Hail Mary or whatever spells in front of the mirror. This is the dumbest thing you can do, but that character can merge with the positive side, and you have both at the same time, which is a bad combination. The same thing with the religious people are talking about the punishment, the redemption, and so on. Like the idol is going to punish you. The same thing, if you put enough thoughts into that, those two parts, they are going to merge into one character, and you might be in big trouble. So in old days, the masters of ceremonies, they always knew that once the job of one idol is done, they were giving offerings to end the contract, to say thank you, your service is no longer required, done. And they knew how to deal with that. Today, this is all so much misunderstanding, so much misinterpretation, so much stuff done in such a way that is very hurtful. For now, that is about it. Now you understand where the name comes from, what its purpose. You also understand all the other idols that are being invented. They are all based sometimes on a real person, but the story behind this, or the myth about what they did and how they operating, is just a myth. But that myth can be it can materialize itself, it can manifest itself. So be very careful what you wish for, because it may happen. So for today's video, this is it. Thank you for your patience. Please do subscribe if you like this type of material. Please like this video, and of course please check the notification bell so you will be notified when the videos are coming. Just a side note, I am doing final touches to my book. It's still one chapter that needs to be a little bit redone, and then I am going to forward this to editor, and well, I am hoping that by Christmas the book is going to be published. However, when in the process of writing that, I decided that there is going to be a second one, but it's going to be more focused on specifics. In other words, half of the stuff that is in this book is not going to be included in there, because it's possible there is going to be the third one. All right? Okay, so thank you, have a pleasant day, and see you in the next video.